All right, let's talk Los Angeles Chargers. It's been one heck of an offseason for the LA Chargers, making a lot of good, solid moves to improve this roster, improve this team, get ready for a big leap forward in 2025. But now we're starting to see the details come out, the contract details. And this is where the rubber really meets the road. It's these kind of specifics that truly matter in the medium and long term for any NFL team. And there's one move in particular where the Chargers did an absolutely incredible job. I think this sets up LA absolutely beautifully. We'll get into that in just a second. But first, I'm Nick. That's Andrew. And this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, the Chargers have made a number of additions and a number of overall moves so far this offseason. And one of the more popular moves for good reasons was the addition of offensive lineman guard Mekhi Becton, formerly of the Philadelphia Eagles. When you break down the numbers and go into the contract specifics, however, this is just an incredible deal by the Chargers. We'll get into that right now. First, let's throw up the original tweet highlighting that the Chargers were going to sign Mekhi Becton so everyone gets refamiliar. So this is from Ian Rappaport. The Chargers and Mekhi Becton agree to a 2-year, $20 million deal per me and at Mike Garofalo. Okay, 2 years, 20 million bucks. That seems about fair price. He's a good player. Maybe a little bit discount, maybe a little bit overpaid, depending on who you ask. But when you break into the details of the contract that have now become public, this is an incredible deal. So let's go into a pie chart here to kind of highlight exactly what we're talking about. And you can see the breakdown. So in the blue, about 34%, that's guaranteed dollars. But the rest of the contract over the 2 years is all things that aren't guaranteed. So you see on the top left there, you got 2026 game bonuses. So if he misses time due to injuries, he's not going to get all that money. His 2026 salary is non-guaranteed. His 2026 roster bonus due in about a year from now after the 2025 season, that's not guaranteed. And his 2025 game bonuses, again, if he misses time due to injury or if he gets benched or something like that, he doesn't get that money. What does this pie chart tell you? It tells you that 2/3 of the pie is money that is not guaranteed to Mekhi Becton. He has to go out and earn it. And after the 2025 season, if the Chargers feel he hasn't, they can cut him right away and move on with only that guaranteed blue chunk acting as the cap hit that they took for signing Mekhi Becton. What does this mean? It means the Chargers went out and got a player they desperately needed at a position they desperately needed, who's a perfect fit, and they did it with such low risk. If you look at this pie chart again, the blue is essentially the Chargers' risk. Everything else is the risk that's been added to Mekhi Becton. So the Chargers not only got a good player at a good price, but they did it with such low risk. This is an incredible job. And we got another graphic for you to kind of really highlight this. This is just a stacked bar chart that kind of highlights the same thing, but it just really tells you the scale of how much risk the Chargers have taken on. So you see it goes from 0 at the bottom to 100% at the top. Only about a third of the way up the chart, the blue, that's what's guaranteed. That's the Chargers' risk. That's the risk they incurred by this deal with Mekhi Becton. It ain't much at all, especially when you look at all the other items as they add up. The Chargers have an out after 1 year. Really, they have an out this season if Mekhi Becton gets hurt. And of course, even if Mekhi Becton plays well and he looks good going to 2026, if he gets hurt, they obviously have the game bonuses that can be pulled back as well. So across the board here, the Chargers have de-risked every aspect of this Mekhi Becton deal while getting a player they desperately needed. This is a phenomenal job by Joe Ortiz. It was a 2-year, $20 million deal, but it's essentially a $20 million deal if Mekhi Becton plays like a $50 million player. That's incredible value. Incredible job by the Chargers. All right, Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on all of this. But first, Chargers fans, in the comment section below, of all the moves the Chargers have made this offseason up to this point, which one do you think was the smartest? Not the best, not the biggest headline grabber, but the smartest move. Maybe it's the Mekhi Becton deal now that we broke it down for you. Give us your opinion on the smartest move the Chargers have made up to this point and put it in the comment section below. But Miles, over to you. What are your thoughts on this latest update involving the Chargers?
Yeah, Nick, I think this move is really solid because I think you get the best of both worlds here. I think if you're the Chargers, you get a really quality player in Becton. Becton gets a little bit of guaranteed money up front. And the risk reward is it's very low risk move for the Chargers, but it's a very high reward move for the Chargers as well. Because the risk is Becton known he came in, when the Jets, and you kind of got the feeling, and after the last couple of years with the Jets kind of a poorly run organization at that time period. Not a lot of people were going to work being like, I'm really excited to go play for the New York Jets. And Becton certainly was that guy, battled with his weight during those times, battled with injuries during those times. Immediately, though, he leaves, he goes to the Philadelphia Eagles and has a stellar season. Really didn't have any issues whatsoever. So the hope is that he continues that trend. Happy to play for a good organization in the Chargers. Happy to play for Jim Harbaugh. A good offensive lineman, best friend type of coach. Let's run the ball, ground and pound. Just exactly what Mekhi Becton wants to do. I think that's the best case for the Chargers. Worst case, you do run into some of those issues. And like you said, you got 2/3 of your risk off the table. You can save that money if you need to cut them. It really isn't too much sweat off of your back. So you've set yourself up for success. Best case, you get a guy in Mekhi Becton who's phenomenal, helped the Eagles win a Super Bowl last year. Worst case, you get to cut him and you save 2/3 of the money that you had up into the salary. So I think this is a really smart move by the Chargers, especially you look at Becton. I really think it's astounding when you look at his numbers. In 2020, he played 691 snaps. 2021, obviously, the injury year, 48 snaps there. 985 snaps with the Jets his last year there in 2023. And then he played almost 1,200 snaps for Philadelphia last season. So this is a guy, I think he's on upward swing. I think you're getting him when he's not at his peak yet. I think this guy's just going to get better. We haven't really seen what all Mekhi Becton has to offer as a player. So I think the Chargers, not only did they get a guy who is very low risk, very high reward, but I think they got him on his uptick. I think we're going to see a much improved Mekhi Becton this year. I think he's going to be an integral part of this offensive line. And I'm going to say it now. I'm going to say it's as impactful as what Kevin Dotson did for the Los Angeles Rams when he moved over there. It was a guy that was kind of question mark a little bit when he moved over there. I was like, is this guy going to be, how well is he going to do? And he absolutely killed it with the Rams. He was one of the best guards in all of football the last few years with the Rams. So I think this is the kind of move that the Chargers have just made. I think Mekhi Becton's going to be a steal in this contract, even if he's not really not too big of a deal. They've set it up beautifully here for the Chargers.
Yeah, so much of this game in terms of salary cap is all about risk mitigation and moving as much risk if you're the team onto the player. And if you're the player, obviously the inverse. You want to put the risk all on the team. The greatest example of this, of a team just doing a disaster class, is the Cleveland Browns when they gave Deshaun Watson that massive, fully guaranteed contract a few years ago. That literally shifted all the risk, 100% of the risk, onto Cleveland. And of course, we know how the Browns have reacted ever since that point. The Chargers, they're a smart team. We saw this Ortiz coming over, Harbaugh doing his thing as well. They make these smart kind of moves, solid contractual things. They move risk away from the team. And when we say away from the team, what really that is an indication of away from future flexibility to make your roster better, either this offseason or in off seasons to come. And I think that's really important. A lot of teams have good rosters and, maybe just a couple players away, or they need to make one key change, but they're so locked in that they're stuck. The New Orleans Saints are like this. The Saints have had a good roster. I'd argue a playoff caliber roster when healthy for like 5 years. They're just stuck because of their salary cap situation. They can't ever make a move out of it, right? Washington was like this for so long, where they were not a good team, but their salary cap situation, how they managed it, was so poor, they couldn't really get out of it. They needed basically an entire reset, just fire everybody, including the owner, get a new quarterback, and things were looking a little bit better for Washington. It's one of those things you always want to have flexibility. This is why the Seattle Seahawks traded Geno Smith and they traded DK Metcalf, because they felt, looking at those deals, if they locked them down long term with their cap situation, they would just be tied down with their current class of players. They would never be able to make any moves. They'd be stuck. The Chargers, very smart. They recognize that if you're a good team, you're trying to figure out where you can improve one year to the next to make a deeper playoff run, or hopefully run a Super Bowl title. The worst thing you can be is inflexible. You can't make any moves to improve your team. You got so much guaranteed dollars allocated, just a few players. You don't have the cap space. And look, if you're a good team, you're not going to have a high draft pick either. That's where things go bad really, really quickly. And we see this, every few years. The Browns were a good example of this, actually, to circle back to Cleveland. They made the playoffs and won a playoff game, I believe, in 2020, right? They were looking good with Baker there for a little bit, and then their cap situation completely fell apart, and they've been a dumpster fire ever since. They did make the playoffs last year, but that was kind of a miracle run. It's been a lot of just terrible in Cleveland, and that's because of their management, how they construct their roster, how they manage the salary cap. The Chargers are being the smart teams, right? They're acting like the Chiefs, like the Eagles, keeping all this flexibility. You can always move money around. The salary cap magic works like that. But if you entrench so much dollars and so much risk internal on your team instead of on the players, you're going to be in a really bad position for the short, medium, and long term. Some teams fall into this trap because they want to make players happy, right? They want to make the big splash signing. So they say, oh, we'll give you so much guaranteed money. We'll give you 80% guaranteed or something like that. that never works out, right? As much as you maybe want to be a team friendly guy or think the players earned it, it's better to move that risk away from your team. You'll pay for it if you don't. And the Chargers here are making a really smart strategic move for their future. Which, by the way, leads me to a great question, Miles. I'm going to put you on the spot here. As we're talking future, draft's not that far away for the Chargers. Where do you want the Chargers to go in this upcoming NFL draft? I just feel like another receiver, another playmaker is needed, right? That's what they got to go after.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this, obviously the addition of Mike Williams back, you think that he'd probably get up to speed in that offense, be familiar with Herbert, that connection still there. But still, you feel like I don't trust Quentin Johnston. He did better last year, but still the drops were a problem, just inconsistency. That was a real problem. So they really do need another guy because that's the issue. Mike Williams, yeah, their consistency can be there. He's 30 years old. It's going to be 31 this season. He's getting up there. We're talking about a future team here. We're talking about a team that needs to have a strong future, and there's no future at receiver here. So I think that is the key here. Another one, I think that they've got some solid players at corner, but I think it's older guys. They brought in guys with St. Juice and Dante Jackson. I think those guys, they're good value propositions, but I think they could use another corner as well. So, on the outsides, that's what we're looking at here. Outside receiver, outside corner. That's what we have going for the Chargers. I'd look for those two positions in the draft for them to be addressed. And I really think there's some really good players that this team can pick up. So check that out coming in the draft. I say receiver, I say corner.